Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, Bruce.
And I'm your host, Pete. What's going on?
Oh, not much, my friend. Not much.
Brucey, my friend. It was nice to play with you yesterday.
It
was
was
really
good.
nice.
We haven't had a chance to jam a whole lot of cards recently because you've been a busy guy and I've been a busy guy. Yeah. And so it was good to take...
How about that pre-con battle we had? That was a little bit insane.
I thought your Sultai colored deck from that Dragonstorm set was pretty dope. The way it managed to mill so many cards into your graveyard and then pull it all back. I thought I was a little unlucky in the sense that I had some really big plays in my hand. I had the what was it? The card that grants all your creatures myriad in my hand.
Oh yeah, the Legion Loyalty, right?
Yeah, and I had that. And I was looking forward to playing it, and I had a pretty decent number of it would have all been small, but if you multiply small creatures by 3, you have a lot of creatures, and there's lots of things to be done then. So I was really looking forward to trying to have a crack at seeing if I couldn't end a lot of people, but never got a chance.
I found that card to be really slow. Like if you windmill slam it, then you have a good chance of winning the game, but it's really fallen off. I thought that the card was broken initially, right?
Yeah,
then when it's just too slow for me. I don't know.
Well,
it doesn't work.
It's definitely very slow, and in the pre-con, I'm not surprised that it's there but it is a very
fun.
very hefty 8 mana 8 mana play, and in a deck where you're looking to make lots of tokens that vanish at the end of turn, it's exactly what you want to do. Like the deck, should really just be themed like a myriad themed deck because that's what it wants to do. But no, I'm not. I wanted to try it because I've never resolved the spell before, and then I didn't quite. I just would have one more turn. That's how many times you hear that? Just one more turn.
All the time.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was fun. It was a good game. And I don't. I think those precons are actually, of the precons I've seen the last number of years, among the ones that I would say are best suited for jamming and doing something cool with them, because I think they all have really unique play patterns. So sure. I like those Dragonstorm precons. I would be recommending, and I don't think it matters which one you pick up. I know the Sultai one is strong. The Mardu one is quite good. The Prowess one, I think, struggles a little bit because it's not intuitive to everybody how to play a Spellslinger deck like that. The one that I am disappointed in, because I've seen it once and I wasn't impressed by it, is the Abzan Big Booty Brigade. I'll be if that's the only one that's a bit of a lemon, then I think you're probably doing okay.
I think the Tamir one is actually the worst of all of them because they didn't really. I feel like they just kind of halved it. They put 50% effort into the deck building. They just threw a bunch of fatties in the deck, where the first commander Eshki is very strong on its own.
Yeah.
The second commander, which is a dragon, they didn't have enough dragons to actually make it do something, and then it didn't have enough fast mana to actually stabilize and pressure. So for me, that was the most underwhelming. Right. Sultai and Mardu are the best two. The Defender deck is okay, but you have to draw the right cards, and then same with the Prowess deck because it's trying to do both of those decks are trying to do two different things.
Yeah.
And it's we know this, right? If you try to do two different things at the same time in a deck, like in life, you're gonna 50-50.
You're gonna do them badly. You're gonna do them badly.
Yeah. So it's better just force one thing and go balls into it and go super deep into it. And put all your balls in one basket, as they say.
Go all in, and all the chips in the middle. See where they land.
Sure.
No, I don't. But it was a really fun game, and I would, if people are out there wondering if they should be picking up the decks, I think people should look at those.
A lot of value. A lot of good value in those decks. Overall,
for
and
sure.
This card I'm going to start off with for our garbage or great. This card, many people don't know what to do with it, and I have ideas, but I want to read this card to you. All right, ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
This card is from Legends, so
No.
it's older than me.
Yeah, it
Great.
is. Okay.
Brine Hag. 2 colorless and 2 blue pips. It's a hag. They haven't errated it yet. And it says when this creature dies, change the base power and toughness of all creatures that dealt damage to it this turn to 0/2. And this effect lasts indefinitely.
Pete, you're killing me here. Okay. So I'm gonna just come here straight out and say, Pete, I don't know that this card's any darn good. So I'm gonna tell you, the text box is interesting, where if you can convince your opponent to deal damage to this, then they can all their things become 0/2s. That to me has some appeal. But the hoops you have to jump through in order to make that be a viable option makes this feel, what's the word I'm looking for? Poopy. So I don't know in what scenario I would create this notion that I could deal a bunch of damage or have multiple creatures like gang up on this thing and then turn them into 0/2. Because if I Voltron it up and now compel my opponent to block it by virtue of being big, it eats a bad removal spell and then it dies. Or I probably trade with a bunch of things, and that's not what I really was looking to do anyway. Like, you're looking to do this in a way that's asymmetrical and like force them to make bad blocks to this thing or bad damage to it. So they deal damage, like, and like you can't multiple fight spell it enough. I don't know. So I'm not sure what to do with this, and I don't love it. So convince me that I'm looking at this the wrong way.
I'm thinking of 2 potential ways to do something with this card. The first is you put like a lure on it, and you have it deal damage get dealt by every creature that the opponent controls. Again, that's jumping through a lot of hoops as well. The other thing would be to play donate it to somebody, and then play Alpha Brawl. And then
Okay.
that would be a janky way to do something with this card. But
Alpha Brawl. I'm gonna have to go read that card because I'm not. I may not know what that card does.
Alpha Brawl is like living the dream. It's like an 8 mana card that says a bunch of
okay.
stuff.
Okay. So we just a moment ago dumped on Legion Loyalty.
Yeah.
Because it's an 8 mana.
And now we've got an Alpha Brawl.
And now we're gonna go and try and extol the virtues of Alpha.
It would never
Brawl.
work.
Okay.
But hey, I'm thinking, at some point we're gonna find a way to lure this thing and make everybody's creatures 0/2s. I don't know.
So the lure plan is fine. I don't mind that. I don't mind the lure plan. As a kid who grew up playing Thicket Basilisk and lure, that was what we did, and that was always good fun. But I mean, if I'm going to play lure, I want to put it on something with Death Touch. I don't want to put it on Brine Hags. I don't want to put Brine Hag in my deck. So Pete, where would you ever play this card? It's sometimes I know we pick funky cards because they're funky, but is this a funky card just for the sake of being funky, or are you actually going to put this somewhere?
Probably not. Not at this point. It's just a card that I just think is hilarious, and I'm glad Magic has some of these sort of gotcha jokester cards.
I think as a flavorful, the fact that a hag is like a witch that leaves a curse on somebody and it curses a bunch of things as it goes away, that to me is cool. I think the flavor there is very well encapsulated in that text box. So if you're playing a witch deck or a some sort of deck where that's what you're doing, that's why it's in Lindy. Sorry, that just dawned on me. So one of the decks that is played is Lindy, cheerful, whatever.
For flavor, yeah.
Yeah, it's for flavor, but I don't think the card is any good. So I would not play this. I'm going to be honest with you, Pete. I would not touch this card.
I'm going to try to see later if I can find something that would do something. But,
I hope you do, and I really would like to see this card make a mockery of me. I love to lose to weird janky cards, and this would be exactly the sort of weird janky card that I'd love to lose to. So make it happen.
Fair enough. What do you got for us today?
I got a card I will play because I do play this card, and think more people should. So this is Chief Engineer. So Chief Engineer is super cool. It is 1 in a blue for a 1/3 Vidalcan Artificer. As artifact spells you cast have Convoke.
Okay, so
I think this is cool. I like this card.
I used to play this in Psi, Master Thopterist, like way back in the day when I had that deck built, because it was so easy to churn out tokens. And then even just playing and tapping the creatures to churn out like mana rocks is nice. To play mana rocks for 2 or for 0, technically. This is a nice accelerant. This is like ramp before they gave a ton of ramp to different colors, right? This was like a card that you would use in replace of like a rampant growth or something, because you were playing mostly blue. I think it's still relevant. A lot of these effects, I feel like, kind of went pushed down to the wayside when it came to like card design by Magic, by Wizards.
Yeah.
But this card, I think, it was in a pre-con in 2016.
That's a long time ago now. Which
is surprising, right? It's surprising that they haven't thrown it in another deck, because they've made a bunch of Artifact Matters pre-cons since then, and that card was not featured. So, yeah, I think this is a sleeper card. I think this is a card that you stick in and you're not like necessarily disappointed with.
Yeah, and like I sort of like this to being and putting it in the same space as Jaheira. So Jaheira cares about tokens. This cares about using your creatures to cast artifacts. It's just using alternative sources for generating mana and acceleration. So they're all they all play in the same space. And if Jaheira's got 128,000 decks, I realize that Chief Engineer probably shouldn't have as many because of the fact it is a little more niche. But I think this card is a sleeper, and I think people have slept on it because they just thought it's always going to be there, and so they probably cut it, not recognizing just the impact it has on a game. And so I think people should go back to their bulk and find it and put it in their deck, because that's what I've done.
The other argument, though, would be maybe it doesn't do enough, because you still need enough creatures to be able to tap to pay the costs. And if you're playing against a meta that's aggressive, maybe they're playing a lot of tokens, you can't afford to tap your creatures for artifacts unless those artifacts wipe the board or do something with it. Like this with a Myr Battlesphere seems very good, just as like a way to curve around it.
Yeah,
I know you're living in magical Christmas land right now, thinking about the possibilities. I guess the only way it falls short is, like, again, you have to figure out what your curve looks like before you can stick this in. And I think that's the only thing, is like the only difficulty is just determining, does this sort of fit?
Yeah, it doesn't quite fit in every box, but I think it's more than people would care to admit to. I think people have sort of overlooked it and passed it by, and I think they should go back and pull it back out.
All right, Bruce, what's your next card? This is this is an interesting one.
This is one I was looking through some of my stuff and I found it. I'm like, I think I want to play this card. So this is Split Decision, 1 in a blue for instant. And it says, Will of the Council. So choose target instant or sorcery spell. Starting with you, each player votes for denial or duplication. If denial gets more votes, counter the spell. If duplication gets more votes or the vote is tied, copy the spell. You may choose new targets for the copy.
Okay, so this is really good. This card might be even better than like a Narset's Reversal. And I'm saying that because of the fact that it's 1 in a colorless and a blue pip, and Narset is 2 blue pips. Mm-hmm. I also think worst case is you copy a removal spell and you get to remove something else that's problematic for you.
Yeah.
I love giving my opponents choices. You know, that's something I've always tried to implement in my deck building. And man, dude, this is great. I don't know. I know people groan when they hear like Will of the Council voting, but this isn't that oppressive. This is just you get to kind of figure out, like, if they're on your side politically in the game, they're going to make you counter it. If they're not, then you get to copy it and cause some more potential havoc. Especially if it's a card like they're drawing like 3 or 4 cards, right? Maybe they're playing like seize the spoils or something, right?
Yeah.
You copying that means you don't even discard a card. You just get the 2 treasures and the 2 cards.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's a
No,
nice flavor
I
card too.
I'm kind of like you in that I don't love voting cards. I think they're annoying but I think this one is just interesting enough that I'd be like, oh, I'd overlook that. I just run it because it's a good card. Because and I'm sort of looking at it from like there's probably lots of targets in my own deck that if I can convince like somebody like, hey, I'm gonna like the classic card is like Secret Rendezvous. Right? Secret Rendezvous, people hate playing it because they don't want to give their opponents cards. But like, let's be real. Sometimes you need to draw cards. Like if I'm gonna be able to treasure cruise and like I go, I'm gonna make a copy of this. If you vote along with me, I'll give you a copy. And the guy beside me goes, yeah, I'm in. Like I'll do that. And then you could play games that way too.
The only issue I have is if I wanted to copy my own spell and they outvote me, then the spell doesn't resolve.
Yeah,
If
no,
I'm
for
trying to
sure.
be greedy.
Definitely. Yeah, you're
But
getting greedy.
I really like this as an interactive sort of reactive card. So it's something blue probably shouldn't have been given, but here we are.
No. But I think it's fun. So I want to try. I'm going to put it in a deck, and I don't know where, but I'm going to put it in something.
All right, so this card is actually a callback to set that'll eventually. They're going to return to this plane, I think, this coming year. But anyway,
Yes.
I'm super excited, but that's just me. This card is called Pyrrhic Revival. So it's 3 colorless and then 3 split mana, so you can pay either a plains or a swamp for the other 3 pips. Sorcery, and it's each player returns each creature card from their graveyard to the battlefield with an additional -1/-1 counter on it. What do you think?
I'm playing this all day. So I have this unfortunate tendency where I want to loop all my creatures because I like to play value piles. It's what I do best more than anything. And friends of mine have commented that Bruce, you build value piles and you have no way to capitalize on it. I'm like, yes, you are right. So I can very much imagine myself milling cards into my graveyard or playing them and sacrificing them for sport, and then using this to bring them all back out of my yard and then put them all right back in by sacrificing them all over again for more toys. So this is very much in keeping with what I like to do and sort of gameplay I enjoy making a go of. But I just think it's a good card in the sense that if you're going to get significant value out of it. Now, I recognize 6 mana in today's modern form of Commander is expensive. It's not a spell you put in your deck lightly and think, yeah, I'll get to that. No. You're putting it there because you have a purpose in mind. It is you are the Aristocrats deck, or you are the value pile deck, and you're going to extract value from this significantly. You don't just put it there for sport and say, well, it'll be kind of cute if I resolve this. No, you have a plan if you're putting this in your deck, and I like that. I like having cards that are powerful in certain strategies, but aren't universally powerful everywhere, so that it just doesn't become a ubiquitous card. So I like this card. I think this is really cool. I've never seen this card before in my whole life, and so I'm looking forward to trying to track down a copy and seeing if I can't put it in my list.
I could see this where you play it, it resolves, and you just blow out your opponents with the amount of like fat that you bring back. I could see this also. My friend plays this flesh bag tribal deck, basically, and this is like the perfect. I mean, it's his mono black, but like it's a card where he'll play it and then everything dies anyway. So it's just another way to trigger everything.
Yeah.
My only worry is you're giving a lot of value to your opponents as well.
Potentially. Like, I mean, if
you're playing this, you're playing it for a particular reason, and that's the combo off.
Yeah, and that's okay. Like, and so you're gonna put some graveyard heat. You'll have your Nihil spell bomb. You'll have your Bajuka bog to try and mitigate the damage you're gonna take from your opponents. I'm less worried about that angle. And like we've seen before, sometimes you can't, like, you just need to go. You need to go and not worry about what your opponents are doing. So I am
Sure.
more inclined to play this and just have a go at it. I do, the piece where like you were talking about the significant value, like something like a Bontu list. Like you've played Bontu Lord God Eternal,
Yep.
which is
I
a
have.
pretty potent effect. And there's another effect too that I've forgotten. That is,
Reprocess.
yeah,
There's a bunch of those types of cards where you sack your whole board, draw a bunch of cards, and then you could play this and just recur them all at once,
yeah.
which is a rather strong sort of way to go about it. Also, defenders, that defender deck, you could use this because the -1 counter really doesn't impact you that much when it
True.
comes to recurring your board. But at that point, just play Nethroi and just get it over with, man. Just play Nethroi,
Oh,
mutate it on one of your things, and you'll get all your defenders back. I've been thinking about that for like weeks now. That's like the perfect card to throw back into that precon. But
oh, oh,
mhm.
oh
not to
no.
not to
Yeah,
get not to get so in terms of reanimator spells, I guess I would give it a 5 out of 10.
that's fair. I can live with that. I would play it still. I would still happily play it. And you're right. It is to combo off with. I would combo off with it.
Mhm.
That's what I want to do.
There you go. You greedy little
I am
value
look my
player.
my greed shows all the way.
Yes.
All the way. So
This next card
okay.
is my greedy card, okay? It's called
Okay.
Forger's Foundry. It's 2 colors and a
Ooh.
blue. It's an artifact. And you can pay 1, you can tap it. It's a mana rock. Add 1 blue. When you spend this mana to cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value 3 or less, you may exile that spell instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard as it resolves. Then you can pay 3 and 2 blue and tap it. You may cast any number of spells from among cards exiled with this artifact without paying their mana costs. Activate only as a sorcery.
Holy shnikes. This card is kind of silly. Pete, have you noticed how much text is on this card? That's a lot of words.
I learned, yeah, I am.
Like
I'm learning.
there's a whole dissertation there. Holy moly. Okay.
Yes.
Um so would I play this card? Yes, I think I would play this card. Because if I'm sitting in blue and I'm looking to do things that are like, if I have instant speed stuff to play, my Ponders, my Gitaxian Probe, no, Gix Probe is a sorcery. But there's a whole bunch of these things that are like instance and sorcery spells that you can like play and get good value out of. And then you can go and do it again later. Like, now, my question is, like, does this trigger cast any number of, like, Tolerant eats this up, loves this for days, and like, what other, like, there's a whole
Yeah.
bunch of cool, like,
Vega the Watcher, whenever you cast a spell not from your hand, you get to draw a bunch of cards. So then you cast, like, maybe put 5 spells under this thing and you draw 5 cards. Ragnar, whenever you exile a card from your hand or the battlefield, you get to make a spirit. There's a bunch
wow,
of
yeah.
there's a bunch of value. Like anytime you exile a spell, you can get an effect. Those types of cards are gonna be like, okay, this just creates free value for 5. It's a very high risk, high reward glass cannon card. I enjoy the fact that they're putting more of these types of cards in these types of decks, especially precons, because maybe it juices the power a little bit, but it also juices the skids. And it's like one of those
Like,
things where you have to literally invest and be smart about how greedy you're going to be, you know?
yes, there it is. That's the tension. I like the tension that is
Right,
created because you
exactly.
have to be, how much greed are you going to let show? Because if you get too greedy, your opponents are going to, like, the moment they get something to blow it up, they're going to get rid of it. But if you have a bunch of like middling spells, they're like, well, yeah, that's not so bad, or oh, okay, he's got divination and he's got a whatever underneath it. Like, how bad could that be? And you go and fire it off, and like the Vega trick, that thing, like, that's just music to my ears. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna draw cards. I'm gonna do something super powerful. Maybe like you do something kind of stormy, like you could do some storm stuff.
Sigil. I'm thinking of Sigil Tracer as well. Sigil Tracer is pay 2, tap 2, untapped wizards, copy target instant or sorcery.
Ooh,
and you may choose new targets.
okay.
That's a card I've always wanted to break in half, and I think with this type of effect, you could do that. Um, any of the Magecraft triggers also go insane with this thing as well
Yeah, like
because they're
that.
copies.
Yeah, no, that Mage Emeritus that cares, or if
Mhm.
you're playing Sultai, maybe you have a Witherbloom Apprentice, or maybe heaven forbid you've got the Lily that's really big. Yeah, like that's oh, you're talking a whole lot of really like, and then I'm thinking about like I've got a Drownu deck that's like got Mind Rot effects, and
Right,
they're
and you
sort
can
of
just
typically
continuously recycle them. They're usually 2
yeah
mana or 3 mana.
yeah they're 2 mana 3 mana spells. So and you could really savage somebody's hand with that like a bunch of times, and they're gonna go, wow, that's really fun. Now, I'm not encouraging people to do that per se, but like
Sure.
that's where I would like where I might go with this.
This is a card I think also that allows prowess to shine too, because sometimes you have a difficulty netting enough spells to actually make your creatures big enough to swing through. This allows you to potentially finish the game if they allow you to untap, with a bunch of cards stuck under this card. This very much reminds me of Imprint, except on like a grander scale. So I'm happy to see this sort of
Hmm.
effect as like an imprint effect on this
I
card.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but you're not wrong. Like the fact
Mhm.
that you and
Yeah.
the nice part about like imprint, you usually lose the spell outright. Like
I
I
think
mean, I guess no,
you lose the spell here, but you can choose not to exile it when you
yeah.
cast it. So the nice thing
So
about this card is you don't even need to do it. You could just be political with it and be careful with it and just be like, I'm not going to get greedy this turn. I'll play this for my Pongify and not put it under the exile. It also reminds me of the 6 mana red enchantment bombardment, arcane bombardment, where you're
oh yeah,
exiling things as well. That card is very, very good. So this is like a budget friendly version of that. Granted, it's double blue for its cost and like for its 5 mana activation, but I enjoy these types of stormy-esque effects. It's not as boring when you're not chaining spells to infinity, but I like this
I
as a fair version of that. And um, again, this is a card that was in a precon recently in Outlaws, so not a lot of people have probably seen it yet. And yeah.
it literally is a brand new card.
Hmm.
Holy, I had never even seen this card, and then it only appeared in the Outlaw Thunder Junction precons, and that card is wow. Hmm. I am a big fan of that card. I like that a great deal.
Thanks. So what do you got? This is the final round. We've got a
All
card
right.
that I've seen in draft before. Let's see.
Yeah, this card has killed me so frequently in the drafts. But
Mhm.
thinking about it from like for tokeny decks, particularly the new Mardu flavored myriad decks, like this thing does exactly what you kind of want it to do. So it generates. So this is war effort. Three in a red for an enchantment. Creatures you control get +1/+0. Whenever you attack, create a 1/1 red warrior creature token with that's tapped and attacking. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So this pumps your creatures.
Right.
This
So
makes more board states, like a greater board state, and I can't see a lot of drawback to it. So
so I think it's a nice budget friendly like Lord type effect. I like to call these types of effects like Lord effects, right? Because there's a lot of creatures that give
mhm.
+1/+1 to a particular board state. I don't like this because it's 4 mana and it only makes a 1/1. If it made a 1/1 for each a player, like an Adeline type effect, then I would play it. But I just feel like it's not like it's good in draft because it gives the +1/+0 and stats matter a lot more. But for this, unless you're playing a really, really aggressive go wide strategy where you're able to put a ton of pressure on the board really fast, I think there's just better options. I'm being too harsh, but that's just because I'm thinking about this as like the lasting effect. +1/+0 usually isn't something to scoff at, but I think in a format where you have stuff like shared animosity or like other sorts of a lord type of like buff effects,
Mhm.
I don't, because normally you're going to play this in a deck where you're playing a bunch of tokens that are going to have the same type usually. I I'd rather just play something like that as a better off
that's
replacement.
that's fair. Um, I agree with the budget notion here, and so
Which is
some of these
totally
other
fine.
cards, yeah,
Yeah.
like at a nickel, like I think at a nickel, this card is
Mhm.
like okay, like I agree. Like 4 mana, do nothing enchantment it only makes a body that can't even block. That's a bit of a downer. There's no doubt about it. But I think when you're talking about, if you're looking to push damage, you're in a, white red aggressive deck. You're in a, Naya colored, like Balen, for instance. Balen makes a million bunny rabbits. Or
Mhm.
you're in, like, there's lots of red X aggro decks that might take advantage of this card and use it to great effect. And there are comparable enchantments that are out there already. So I think this is a little bit cheaper, and it provides good effect, and many decks would not notice a huge difference in power level from one thing to the next.
I also want to say that, say you're just trying to get an attack trigger and you get bonuses for your attack triggers. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, the obvious would be Ishin,
Yeah,
but I
that's
but I
tough.
but like Wolfgar is also something that could be considered with melee, because say the
Ooh,
1/1
yes.
becomes a 5/5, then it's like you have to kind of worry about that chip damage instead of it just being a 1/1. And then it's sacrificed at the end of the next end step. So what you can do with it too is you could like sack it to another
Skull
type
clamp.
of effect.
Skull clamp.
You could skull clamp it, you could greater good it if you get it large enough. You could do something with it that might be interesting, because the token, some people will let it go through as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, it's not a completely terrible card. I know because we have so many options, it might just not be the best for your strategy. If you're playing something like Perforos, maybe, then anytime you get the 2 damage in, which is really cool. Um,
Or
I don't.
Vinya. Like Vinya.
Mhm.
Vinya is another one that just like it just the Vinya list from Bloomborough as a precon does a lot of just making one power things. And
Yeah,
granted, this would pump it, so Vinya itself may not get the trigger, but it's a lot of like impact tremors effects that are in the
sure.
built into the list. So you just bleed out pretty
The
quickly.
other thing too is Grave Pact type effects, like Dictative Erebos, Grave Pact, where like Judith, like those types of effects where the the 3 mana card that says whenever you sack up thing, you get a +1/+1 counter. When it dies, you get to deal damage to any target. Those types of effects are
Mayhem Devil.
Mayhem Devil. Thank you. Yeah. So like, I could see this in Rakdos as well, as a way to make your goblins 2/1s or 3/1s. I had a friend as well playing in a mono red elemental deck where he'd make a ton of 3/1 elementals. I forget the commander name, but it was a neat little deck. And
Valduk would do it.
maybe, but it was something. I think you either discarded 2 cards to make 3/3/1s. I don't remember how
Is that Ashling maybe?
it's an old card, but
Oh
all I
yeah,
know is like that's possible.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
spirits, stuff like that. So
Oh,
I'm thinking,
flying tokens. Oh yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I could see this doing something. I'm just not necessarily sure if it's enough.
Well, okay. Let's have a little thought experiment here. We've talked about the Legion loyalty, like the 8 mana chonker of an enchantment, or we
Mhm.
have this one, war effort. If
Mhm.
you had a choice of putting one in your deck or the other, what would you lean to first?
I'm looking at impact immediately. So the tough thing is they both don't really do much unless you're able to attack.
Agreed,
However,
but like at least if
however,
you,
I like War Effort as a more aggressive card,
yeah.
ironically enough. So
So I'm sitting here and like I've actively debated: do I take out the Legion loyalty and put in a war effort? So I take out my fancy 8 mana enchantment and slide
you
in
go
a
for speed
1 cent.
versus strength. Yeah,
Yeah, and I'm
yeah,
kind of thinking that might be the solution, because if the deck is looking to push damage, this is a surefire way to produce tons of damage. So
possible.
that's what I'm thinking about, and why I wanted to have a conversation around, because I think the card is actually Like it's not insane. Like no one's gonna say, "Oh, that's the game change." Like no, but I think it's a very reasonable include. I think people would look at it and go, it's draft chaff. I'm not putting it." And they go, "Wait a second, maybe take a second look at it." You may elect not to play it. Don't
It's
get me
being
wrong.
generous, and I appreciate it. It's being generous, you know?
It's okay.
If you have no other options, play this card. But
I
again,
think so. Yeah.
there's just other things out there, like that card we featured a few weeks ago where you put the chorus count, the chorus counters or whatever it was every upkeep, and everything gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes, which would be imminently more damage. Imminently more damage.
But again, we're a budget friendly show. We care about budget, so I have no qualms with its price tag.
5 cents.
Yeah.
5 cents.
Yeah, so
All right.
that's it. Thank you, folks.
It's
Take
good.
care of yourselves out there. Enjoy the summer weather coming up. We'll see you next week, and see you back with some more jank.